Hi everyone, I'm Tracy, and wait till you hear this. Just one simple trick can keep your celery crisp and fresh for 3 months after you bring it home from the market. Sounds impossible? Well, if your celery always ends up limp, soggy, or turns yellow and mushy after just a few days in the fridge, you're not alone. That's the problem most people face: slimy stalks, wilted leaves, and wasted money. But don't worry. Today I'll show you how to stop that from happening with easy methods anyone can do at home. Before getting started with storage, the prepping step is extremely important and shouldn't be skipped. First, when you bring celery home, remove the plastic wrap. Did you know that celery is made up of 95% water? If it loses moisture, it wilts and gets mushy quickly. Keeping just the right amount of moisture helps the cells stay plump, preserving the crunch and fresh green color. That's why I said, the wetter the celery, the longer it stays fresh. Next, you need to remove all the bruised, yellowing, or wilted leaves. Many people try to keep them out of frugality, but just a few spoiled leaves can spread mold and rot to the whole bunch in no time. It's always wonderful when I see where everyone is watching from. Please let me know where you're from. I really want to connect with people from all over the world. After removing the yellow and damaged leaves, I rinse the celery under running water to get rid of all the dirt and leftover chemicals. You don't need to dry it completely, just shake off the water gently. Finally, I divide the celery into small portions to make it easier to store and use gradually. Dividing it beforehand helps avoid taking out the whole bunch each time, which can affect the remaining celery. Now it's ready to be stored. The first way to keep celery fresh for a long time without losing its flavor is to store it in water. I wonder if this method seems familiar to anyone, because I once shared it on my channel before. First, I use a sharp knife to cut off the root base of the celery bunch, and at the same time, remove any wilted or damaged stalks if there are any left. Then, I prepare a glass jar or a tall, wide-mouthed cup and pour in about 1.2 to 2 inches of clean water. Keep in mind to add just enough water to hydrate the base, avoiding full submersion of the stems, which would make the celery prone to rotting. Next, I place the prepared bunch of celery into the jar, standing it upright so the cut ends are in contact with the water. This is the part that absorbs water and helps keep the celery fresh longer. Then prepare an empty plastic bottle, cut off the bottom part, and cover the celery from above using the bottom part of the bottle. It's especially important to make sure there's a small gap between the mouth of the bottle and the rim of the glass jar, so the celery can breathe. Celery continues to respire even after harvest. If there's no gap or air circulation, ethylene gas will build up, which speeds up aging and causes spoilage or condensation inside. This storage method helps keep the celery fresh and crisp for 5 to 6 weeks in the refrigerator or in a place with light and good air circulation. It's clean and doesn't require washing again before use. Every time I cook, I just open the cover and take out a few stalks. Fresh ingredients are right there, super convenient and time-saving. Aside from storing in a cup of water, you can also store celery in an airtight container, which is very convenient and keeps it as fresh as if just harvested. First, you should wash the celery thoroughly in a basin of water, gently removing any dirt or dust clinging to the stalks. After washing, I drain the celery in a basket to remove excess water, or if I want it to dry faster, I use a clean towel or dry paper towel to blot it. It doesn't need to be completely dry. Just make sure the celery isn't dripping anymore. Next, cut off the root part of the celery. Then line the bottom with a layer of dry paper towel or napkin. This layer will absorb moisture and help prevent the celery from becoming soggy during storage. Gently arrange the celery in the container, avoiding packing it too tightly so the stalks won't get crushed. Finally, place another layer of dry paper on top to absorb moisture from above, then seal the lid tightly. Place the container in the refrigerator's crisper drawer or a spot with stable temperature. Avoid putting it near the door or freezer section, as sudden temperature changes can cause the celery to spoil faster. With this method, celery can stay crisp and fresh for 7 to 14 days, making weekly meal prep much more convenient. Besides the two methods above, I still have one more storage method that's also very convenient, especially if you have limited space in the refrigerator, and that is wrapping celery in paper and placing it in a zip bag. The method is quite similar to the initial steps of the previous techniques. First, you also need to rinse the celery under running water, gently removing all wilted leaves, damaged bases, or bruised stems. Then, take it out and let it drain, and use dry paper towels or a clean cloth to gently blot off any moisture on the outside. This is a very important step you need to handle carefully if you don't want your celery to spoil quickly. Once the celery has drained, cut off the roots, then wrap the entire bunch with dry paper towels. You can divide it into smaller portions depending on your daily cooking needs to make it easier to take out and use. Celery is a type of vegetable that is very rich in antioxidants such as flavonoids and apigenin, which help reduce inflammation and are good for the heart. In addition, it also contains a lot of vitamin K, A, C, and fiber that help support digestion, boost immunity, and stabilize blood pressure, so my fridge always has celery available. Put the wrapped celery into a zip bag. Remember to use your hand to press out the air inside before sealing the bag. Limiting the amount of air in the bag is the secret to helping the vegetables retain their freshness for a longer time. Then, place the zip bag into the refrigerator's cooler compartment. With this method, celery can maintain its green freshness and crispness for 4 to 6 weeks, while also saving maximum space. Very suitable for those who cook regularly, but don't want to go to the market many times a week. The final method, Tracy guarantees, is a familiar one because Tracy has shared it before when preserving cilantro, scallions, or some other types of ingredients. First, soak the celery in a basin of water mixed with 1 teaspoon of baking soda to disinfect and remove any pesticide residue. Soak for about 5 to 7 minutes. Baking soda is a mild alkaline substance that helps eliminate pesticide residue and bacteria clinging to the leaves without affecting the flavor. After that, rinse thoroughly with plain water, then take it out to drain or use a towel to dry it completely. Next, use a knife to cut the celery, depending on your cooking habits. Cut into long pieces if you're making soup, or finely chop if you're planning to stir-fry or use it as seasoning. Divide the chopped celery into glass jars with tight-fitting lids. Be careful not to pack it too tightly or overfill, as it might bruise the celery. Finally, close the lids and place the jars in the freezer compartment. This method helps the celery retain its green color, flavor, and nutrients for 2 to 3 months. It's especially convenient because there's no need to defrost before using. You can simply add it directly into soup, porridge, or stir-fries. It's quick, clean, and doesn't affect the distinct flavor of celery at all. So Tracy has just shared 4 super simple but effective ways to store celery. Standing it in a jar of water, storing it in an airtight container, wrapping it in paper and putting it in a zip bag, and finally, carefully freezing it. Which storage method do you like the most? Or if you have any other tips, don't hesitate to share them in the comments so Tracy and everyone can learn from each other. If you found today's tips helpful, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss upcoming videos. Thank you for watching, and see you again in the next tips on Tracy Tips.